Okay, let's jump right into this one. I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are smiling, right? The outside, the screen looks perfectly fine.
The casing is intact, the display is bright, everything seems completely, totally normal. But deep down inside your system, your battery, think of it as your glowing inner core, is being rapidly, almost violently drained. And why is that? It's because you have some incredibly heavy background apps running nonstop. First up, your brain is constantly running this massive background app regarding money. It's always crunching numbers in the background, it's worrying about inflation, it's stressing over rent, and it's constantly trying to figure out how to stretch that next paycheck. It literally never closes.
And right alongside that one, another app is quietly draining your energy. This one is busy processing societal expectations. You know the feeling? It's that constant, low-level hum of peer pressure, where you're unconsciously comparing your real-life timeline to everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reels on social media.
Then we have to add in this incredibly heavy cognitive load, carrying around unhealed wounds. We're talking about past traumas and painful experiences that just never truly close out. They kind of just sit there in your psychological background, constantly refreshing and constantly eating up your available memory. And finally, we have the incredibly draining effort of performing a role. Just think about the sheer amount of energy it takes to constantly try and be the perfect partner, the flawless child, or the outstanding, always-on employee. All of these background apps are running at the exact same time every single day.
So, psychologists actually have a name for this culmination of background processing. They call it existential exhaustion. It's essentially a state of profound inner depletion that happens to be brilliantly disguised by outward normalcy. And it perfectly explains how you can be sitting on your couch on a lazy Sunday doing absolutely nothing physically demanding whatsoever, and yet you feel like you just crossed the finish line of a literal marathon.
So you really have to ask yourself, why are you so exhausted when you've done absolutely nothing physical? Like, why does sitting completely still feel so entirely draining? Well, to truly understand this, we need to shift gears and look directly into the biological mechanics of the human brain.
The contrast we're dealing with here is just staggering. You see, for most of human history, our ancestral worries were super immediate and physical. It was stuff like finding food, avoiding predators, surviving the cold winter. But look at our modern reality. We are bombarded with a massive, relentless information load and constant abstract pressures. In fact, research from Cornell University shows that our brains simply aren't built for this modern environment. We are living through a massive evolutionary mismatch.
And it really all boils down to one truly staggering number: 35,000. That right there is the estimated amount of decisions an average adult makes every single day. 35,000. From what shirt you're going to wear, to which route to drive to work, to how to reply to that one email, to whether or not you should swipe away that news notification.
Now, processing 35,000 choices leads us straight into something called decision fatigue. Think of your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical center of your brain, kind of like a computer CPU. When you force it to process tens of thousands of micro-decisions, it overheats. It literally goes on strike. And that is exactly why by 6 p.m., a simple, trivial choice like what's for dinner can honestly make you want to cry. Your biological hardware is completely overwhelmed.
This biological overload bridges us directly into some really common behavioral symptoms that society constantly completely misunderstands. For instance, why do we constantly rewatch the exact same TV shows over and over? Or why do we doom scroll on our phones for hours when we know for a fact we should be sleeping? To answer that, we have to talk about anhedonia. It's the reduced ability to feel pleasure. Remember that glowing internal core battery we talked about earlier? Well, it dims. Your dopamine reward system has been so severely overworked by modern stimuli that it basically becomes depleted. So instead of feeling excitement when you hear from an old friend or see a cool movie trailer, your brain just responds with this eerie, flat emptiness. You're just drifting, almost like an actor reading a script without actually feeling any of the emotions.
And unfortunately, this is exactly where the judgment comes in. Society is super quick to label this state as just laziness or a lack of discipline. People tell you to just go outside or push through it, but the psychological reality is entirely different. Guys, this isn't laziness. It's actually an unconscious nervous system defense mechanism. Your body isn't just giving up. It is desperately searching for safety.
Because your nervous system is so battered by the unpredictable variables of daily life, it intensely craves a 100% predictable safe zone. And that's why we see these very specific behaviors. You rewatch that old sitcom for the 12th time because you already know every single joke. You know exactly how the episode ends, there are zero surprises and no plot twists to process. You doom scroll TikTok for 3 hours straight because it requires absolutely zero complex emotional energy from you.
And this exhaustion deeply, deeply affects our relationships too, often leading to a calculated social withdrawal. You end up stuck in this agonizing, suffocating loop. You genuinely want to be connected, but the mere thought of keeping up the social mask is just way too much. Just replying to a casual text that says, "Hey, want to grab coffee?" kicks off a massive mental checklist that feels as heavy as writing a 5,000-word essay. So, you choose silence. You isolate, even though the guilt of doing so absolutely eats away at you.
So how do we actually get out of this? How do we recover? Well, if you are at the bottom of this well right now, we are going to leave toxic positivity at the door. You don't need a grueling 5 a.m. marathon routine, and you definitely don't need a mandate to just think positive thoughts. What you actually need is what we call minimum survival mode. These are actionable, low-energy strategies to help you just survive until you're ready to thrive again.
To finally put your internal battery into low-power mode, we're going to follow 3 concrete stages. Stage 1 is social fasting. Stage 2 is the zero decision protocol, and stage 3 is deep biological rest. Let's walk through exactly how you can implement these in your life starting right now.
All right, stage 1 is dropping the persona. The famous psychologist Carl Jung talked extensively about the social mask we all wear just to function in society. The problem is keeping that mask perfectly painted on while you're completely empty inside burns an unbelievable amount of cognitive energy. You're basically an actor who never gets to leave the stage. So you need to go on a temporary emotional strike. Practice social fasting. Set really clear boundaries with your loved ones, let them know your battery's at 1%, and fiercely protect your peace by turning on Do Not Disturb on your phone after 8 p.m.
Next up is stage 2, the zero decision protocol. You have to temporarily put your life on autopilot so your prefrontal cortex can finally heal. Honestly, borrow Steve Jobs' famous wardrobe strategy here. Don't stand in front of your closet burning precious energy on choices. Rotate 3 simple outfits. Pick one straightforward weekly menu and stick to it. By completely bypassing decision fatigue, you are removing daily chaos. And when your brain stops having to process a million variables, it finally receives the signal that it is safe.
Now, here is the massive trap that 90% of people fall into when they think they're resting. Lying in bed scrolling on your phone, that is just junk rest. The blue light, the fast-moving images, they cause rapid dopamine spikes that are literally forcing your nervous system to run a high-speed sprint while your body stays perfectly still. To actually recover, you need deep biological rest. And that means absolutely zero sensory input, it means embracing stillness, and honestly, it means embracing boredom.
And that brings us to a highly effective method recommended by Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. It's called non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. The practice itself is remarkably simple, but I promise you it's challenging. For 15 to 20 minutes, you cut off all sensory input. You just lie on the floor. No podcasts, no music, no screens. You just exist quietly, almost like a tree. Your overstimulated brain is going to absolutely scream at you that it's bored, but you have to push through that initial discomfort.
Because if you can just sit in that quiet for a few minutes, a profound biological shift actually happens inside of you. Your sympathetic nervous system, which is that panicked, exhausting fight-or-flight mode, finally turns off. And your parasympathetic system, the rest and digest mode, sparks to life. Your heart rate naturally slows down, your blood pressure drops, and your body literally begins the physiological work of repairing stress-damaged cells. This is what real, actual recharging looks like.
I want to wrap up our explainer today with this deeply empathetic thought. You are not broken. You are just in your winter. Think of a tree in the dead of December. It looks bare and completely lifeless on the surface, right? But deep underground, the roots are resting, they're recovering, and they're storing vital nutrients for the spring. Switching your life to low power mode is not a failure. It's a completely necessary season of rest. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to explore. If your brain's CPU is currently overheating, what is the very first background app you are going to force quit today to finally give yourself the permission to truly rest? Keep learning, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next explainer.